gonna wait until a few people get on here, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Can you guys hear me? If you could hear me, please type that you could hear me, just so I know. All right. I am going to begin shortly, inshallah. I'm sorry I'm doing this at 7 instead of 8. I know that 8 is like the regular time for everyone, but unfortunately I have another live to go on at 8 o'clock. In case you want to check that out, it'll be on Care New Jersey's Facebook page. So if you want to check that out, I would definitely recommend you doing that, inshallah, because we're going to be talking about a lot of things pertaining to Islam and justice in Islam, and a lot of that actually has to correlate with my topic. I'm sorry for the dinging on my laptop. Hopefully that will stop soon, inshallah. Okay, so now my topic for today is the importance of the Quran in Ramadan. So as Ramadan is approaching, oh, by the way, before I start, I'm going to try to keep this as casual as possible, inshallah. So if you have any questions, feel free to chat with me over here. Hi, guys. And if you want to tell me anything important that you think, or if you want to tell me that I'm wrong or something like that, I am always up for discussion, inshallah. And hopefully I will be off of here before 8 o'clock and see you guys in my other live stream at 8, inshallah. Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. So Ramadan is approaching, and as we all know, we should be reading the Quran all year round, especially in Ramadan, since it's the month that the Quran was revealed. But I feel like if we grow up listening to our parents and our shuyukh telling us, you need to read the Quran, read the Quran, read the Quran, read the Quran, without actually knowing why we're reading the Quran, why we're picking it up, then it could become a habit rather than something spiritual, something that we connect to our Lord with. So today, inshallah, I'll be talking about why we should be prioritizing the Quran and the importance of having this spiritual connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we don't really understand what we're reading, if we know how to read the Quran, that is amazing, that is great. But if we can't comprehend what the Quran is actually saying, we're losing a very deep connection that could be made with just a little bit of practice. And also, we have so many resources in front of us, literally, like we have our computer that we could go on and just look up the translation. We have so many YouTube videos that we could look up the transliteration for. Our favorite surahs. So I just want to be able to teach us why we should take that next step and go the extra mile, inshallah, and inshallah have a deeper connection with the Quran. So let's start off talking about what the Quran is. And if you guys want to add anything, I am totally up for discussion. So you could just like type out whatever you want to say. I love you guys too, by the way. You're so sweet. Thank you. So the Quran is a guidance to mankind directly from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to our messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And even though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the revelation to the messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam because he's the only one who could handle the process of revelation and fully internalize the Quran from start to finish, the Quran in Surah Al-Muzammil, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Soon shall we send down to thee a weighty message." And the message is indeed very, very heavy. Zayd bin Thabit narrates, and this narration is in Sahih Bukhari. He narrates, "I wrote down the revelation in the presence of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When the revelation came, the messenger of Allah would shiver and shake, and sweat would come down from his temples. When the revelation ended, he would come round. Then he would say, and I would write. The divine revelation came, pressed so hard on me that I would think that my leg broke and that I would not be able to walk again." That is how heavy the message of the Quran is. I feel like when we have the Quran so easily available to us on our phones or just lying around as decoration in our house, we don't realize the actual message that is in the Quran and the heaviness of that message. And when we hear Zayd bin Thabit talking about the heaviness of the Quran, where he felt like his leg was broken because of the strength of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's words, we realize that this book was not written by anyone. This book is something that cannot be compared to anything in this dunya. It's written by the Most High, the one who has close to the Quran, and no book will be able to explain everything about our lives in the most beautiful, divine way. The Quran, in the very beginning of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah alBaqarah tells us the purpose of the Quran in our lives, and reminds us that the Quran is not for us. The Quran is not for him. The Quran is for us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't need us to read the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the angels and jinn worshipping him, has the believers everywhere worshipping him. He doesn't need you to read the Quran. We need to read the Quran for ourselves because it doesn't help him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the Most High and doesn't need our help. The only reason we read the Quran is to please Allah and to help strengthen our relationship with Allah and just elevate our status in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala needs us to, it's for ourselves. And we don't do it for our parents because our parents told us you have to read 5 pages a day. That's not why we're doing it. We're doing it because we want to strengthen our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the first 5 areas, Alif Lam Mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. Who believe in the unseen, establish prayer, and spend out of what we have provided for them. وَالَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِأُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ وَمَا أُنزِلَ مِنْ قَبْلِكَ وَبِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ يُوقِنُونَ. And who believe in what was revealed to you, talking to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and what was revealed before you, and the hereafter, they are certain in faith. أُولَئِكَ عَلَى هُدًى مِّن رَّبِّهِمْ وَأُولَئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. Those are upon right guidance from their Lord, and those question. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us right off the bat in the very beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah, this Quran is meant for us to be successful. If you believe in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and you give in the wealth Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to you, and you believe in the prophets that came before the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you establish your prayer, you accept what has been written in the Quran and you take it and you implement it in your life, that is how you find success in this dunya. And success does not come from worldly gains. I feel like if I ask anyone on the street who they find successful, they'll tell me Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. But we have to understand that success in this dunya and success in the akhirah are in some ways mutually exclusive, but in other ways completely not. Because in the end, you could have everything in the dunya and your life in the akhirah. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was one of the best leaders, like literally known to be the best leader in the entire world. He's marked down in history books. He is famous for his character. Whether you are Christian, Jewish, it's marked down in history books. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's leadership, militaristic skills, and character. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam also has the best akhirah possible. He is the greatest of the great. He's the best man to walk the earth and the most beloved in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a walking Quran, did implement every single thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us to do into his life, he was able to find success in the dunya and in the akhirah. Someone asked how we could pray Taraweeh in Ramadan in our house. You could pray with your family, and that's the beauty of Salah Taraweeh in the Quran. It doesn't have to be inside your house. It could be wherever you go, basically. You could do it in your house. You could do it don't leave your house. Don't go to friends' houses. Don't do any of that stuff, inshallah, until it's okay and that COVID is over. But if you want to, you could just gather your family and do Taraweeh right there. Like, you don't need to have an imam leading you in Taraweeh. You could do it in your home, inshallah, especially under the circumstances. Like, if the masjid is closed, there's nothing you could do about it. And just stay safe, because it's better that way. And just going back to the Quran, directly to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we are asking for forgiveness, we are asking directly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly about our sins, and asking him to forgive our sins. We don't have to go to a pastor to ask for forgiveness. We just need to raise our hands and talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at any time, any point. And with that same notion, when we listen to the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of all things, is talking directly to us. There is no middleman. We open the Quran and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to us. If we want to talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we raise our hands. If we want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to talk to us, we open the Quran. There's no middleman. It's just us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is the beauty of having a religion where we are so close to Rabbina. And Amatara is right. Praying Taraweeh in your home can 100% improve family relations. Standing in Salah together with your family is the most serene, beautiful experience. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reunite with our families and pray Salah in Jannat al-Firdaus, inshallah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just going back to the Quran, with that same notion, with having Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talking to us directly, there is so many times within the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks directly to us. I know there's so many different stories about different prophets and there are so many times in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions his believers and commands his believers and tells his believers, "Oh, you who believe, do this for success." Sorry, my eye is getting watery. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Al-Munafiqun, "O you who believe, let not your wealth and your children divert you from the remembrance of Allah." He subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah At-Tawbah, "O you who believe, fear Allah and be with those who are true in words and deeds." He tells us in Surah Al-Baqarah, "O you who believe, seek help through patience and prayer, and indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with the patient." Sorry, my eye's watering. It does that sometimes. Also, if you guys want to put some verses in the chat section with the same notion, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling us, like, "Oh, you who believe this, about how to be successful," that would be great. And if you guys just want to talk about, like, or mention your favorite ayah in the Quran, that would be awesome. That's such a good way to, like, get everyone involved and just, like, remember the beauty of the Quran. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks to us and tells us so many times, "Oh, you who believe, do this. Oh, you who believe, seek help through patience and prayer. Stand in salah. Go down in sujood with those who go down in sujood. Pray with those who pray. Fast with those who fast. But if we don't read the Quran and if we don't take that step to know what it is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us to do and ordering us to do to gain paradise, to be proper servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how are we going to go through this dunya? If we're not taking that step to open the Quran and to read what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to tell us, then how are we going to be able to navigate? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us an instruction manual for the dunya. You are not going to go and, put together a bike without knowing where each screw goes. You're not going to go on a trail that has no path without, looking at a map and seeing which way to go. And how are we going to go and navigate through this dunya without opening the book Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, the instruction manual, and not, go through life reading what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us, remembering it in our everyday actions. And if we follow it, and if we follow what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to say to us, then no hardship or calamity will ever destroy us or allow us to lose faith, because we will know that our life is controlled by the best of planners. Yes, I do have actually a great way to break up the Quran in Ramadan, actually. I love that. I love that ayah. MashaAllah. And Rola, actually, I have a very great way, I think, to split up the Quran. It depends, again, on your level. So if you understand Fusha, and if you just like completely understand Arabic, English perfectly, like you could pick up a Quran, read an ayah, and say, I know exactly what that means, then you could do 4 pages after every single prayer in Ramadan. And by the end, you will finish the Quran, inshallah. But for most of us, including myself, who are not perfect at Fusha and who need a little bit of help, if you read 4 pages of Arabic and 4 pages of English, the same exact pages, so you know like what you're actually reading and what the translation is, then by the end of Ramadan, if you do 4 pages of Arabic and 4 pages of English after every prayer, you'll finish the Quran 2 times, which is amazing. And it may seem like a lot, but inshallah, by the end of this lecture, we're gonna, and like just this conversation in general, we'll understand that this is not something that's a chore. It's not something that we just have to get done. Like I have to finish the Quran by the end of Ramadan. It's something that we do for ourselves. It's our self-care. Right now we're in quarantine and self-care has been very prevalent, but it's not just about our physical appearance, it's also about our mental state. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted us this beautiful Quran that is able to help us calm ourselves down and bring us down, and humble us in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and strengthen our connection. So this is also a form of self-care. And if we shift our mentality from something that we have to get done to something that we're doing for ourselves and for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the pages will fly by, and it will exactly, it's less of an obligation and more of a self-favor. It is such a favor to yourself. And I just want to mention every single citation I have in my little lecture is all from the Quran except for that one hadith from Bukhari. So every single thing I'm saying right now is all coming straight from the Quran, and it's so crazy that all we have to do is open up the Quran and just have all of this information given to us about every single part of our life. And if we listen to what the Quran has to tell us, no hardship or calamity will destroy us or allow us to lose faith, because we have faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowing that our fate is planned by the best of planners, and will always be familiar with the sweet taste of Iman. You know that Iman high, you just can't get Iman. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always allow us to be amongst these people. Ameen. I was at Al-Aman Suleiman lecture actually a month ago, and he was talking about how the number one reason why people leave their religion is because they have a bad perception of God. They're not able to accept why do bad things happen to good people. They have that kind of mentality, and subhanallah, the Quran prevents that from happening completely. With every single story of a messenger, or Maryam, Isa, alayhi salam, or anyone who is mentioned, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows us why it is, like, why people go through hardships. He tests the ones he loves most. Um, and another reason why people leave Islam is because, and religion in general, is because they feel lonely and they don't have a good perception. Like, their perception of Allah is like He's so far away. But in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us that He is near. In Surah Qaf, He says, "We have created man and knows what his soul whispers to him, and we are closer to him than his jugular vein." Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us that you are not lonely in Islam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala understands you more than anyone else. There's so many times where I'm sure myself and other people feel, oh, nobody understands me, nobody gets what I'm going through, I feel so alone, like nobody could help me right now. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us that He knows us. He knows what's inside of our hearts. He knows us better than anyone will ever know us. And instead of turning to, if you feel like your friend might not understand what you're going through, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows you better than you know yourself. So when you need help, look towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And how beautiful is that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what's going to lead him, like what could potentially lead us away from Him, and reminds us in the Quran that we shouldn't have those fears. He calms us and comforts us with His presence. Let me see. Being put to the test. That's such a beautiful ayah. And Amutar that says, has the time not come for those who have believed that their hearts should submit humbly in remembrance of Allah who would come down with truth? That's like so. Every single verse from the Quran is just like, it literally gives you goosebumps when you actually comprehend it and think about it. Allah will never leave our side as long as we are turning towards Him. There's so many verses and so many hadith talking about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, running towards us, and Allah subhanahu, if we like taking steps towards Him, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with us everywhere we go. And that's true. In Islam, like, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that something that all humans struggle with is the feeling of loneliness, the feeling of isolation. Because the world is so big and we're so small, it's really hard for us to just wrap our heads around everything. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is holding our hand through life as long as we are taking the steps to get to know Allah, to get to know our Creator. And when we do feel spiritually sick, well, let's start with when we feel physically sick. When we feel physically sick, what do? Say, your sister, your brother, your mother is sick. You go and you get them medicine, and you don't just get them medicine, you get them the best medicine. You spare no expense. And we just want to make them feel better as soon as possible. But when we are spiritually sick, we should be turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We shouldn't be saying like, oh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how could He do this to me? As Farheen said in the comments, it's a punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No, it's a blessing because it's giving us an opportunity to be better. It's limited social. You have to rely on, exactly. Rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you will never feel loneliness. You'll never feel a void. And if you do, you will know that it'll pass, and you'll know, and it won't be as severe as it would be. Because I know, anxiety and depression are very real illnesses, and they're not something to be messing around with. And some people do need medicine for it. But inshallah, if we read some Quran, it could ease us a little bit more than if we had the mentality, oh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is out to get me, which is never, ever, ever the case. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves His believers. And just like we take medicine when we're sick, we need to have a relationship with the Quran when we feel spiritually low and spiritually sick. In Surah Al-Najm, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we sent down the Quran such things that have healing and mercy for the believers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls the Quran a medicine basically for the believers. And that's completely true. It calms us down and it makes us at ease. You are having tawakkul in Rabbana and knowing that He is not doing anything to harm you, it's only to make you better, then then we're allowed to have the Quran as like something to calm us down and to ease us and to provide us um, with calmness, and it's a heal for our hearts. It's a heal for the diseases of the hearts, which is a different topic. The diseases of the hearts. If I got into that right now, we would be here all night. Yeah, exactly. I was just reading because we're in isolation. I was just reading Noah's comment. Like, since we're in isolation right now, like we're all home and alone. You see like so many memes about like 2020 being the end of the world and focusing on all the bad stuff that's happening right now. And we're like not really understanding. We're like, wow, like is this I've heard so many Muslims saying like, oh, this is a punishment because our society is like destroyed. And like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we shouldn't have a bad perception of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala where he's trying to, like punish the entire world because he's upset with everyone. No, our struggle is very individual. While it may seem that this is a large struggle for the world in general, this calamity, the pandemic, is hitting us each individually. It's not because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to punish us. Why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want to punish someone who is, doing, everything they can to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala properly? That shouldn't be the mentality that we have. It should be a way, every time we get hit with a calamity, we should think, okay, how can I make myself better out of this? How can I reap the hasanat that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised me after dealing with calamity? And to do that, we could look at the stories in the Quran, the stories of the different prophets and the most noble people, the most beloved people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala were tested with more difficulty than we can ever imagine. The Prophet Ayub alayhi salam lost his health, his wealth, all 10 of his children, his status in society. And what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have to say about the Prophet Ayub alayhi salam? He said, indeed, we found him patient, an excellent servant. Indeed, he was repeatedly turning back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says that in Surah Sad. Yeah, exactly. The story of Prophet Yusuf, for example, even Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam endured. He was the best man to walk the earth, and he endured more pain than we could ever bear, more tragedy than we could ever bear. He buried his children. He was tested with wealth, his health, his status in society. So many of his family members turned against him, his own tribe. It was his life. For the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he did not become attached to anything in this dunya. And if we're ever feeling like we are too greedy or we're too unkind or any problem that we have within ourselves, we could turn to the actions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that is told in through the Seerah and through the Quran, and look at his actions, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and inshallah implement that into our own lives. Maryam Isa alayhi salam, in the Quran, it's explained that she had to go back to her village with a child, even though she was never married, knowing that people would slander her and accuse her of adultery. And Maryam, she, like Isa alayhi salam, she had tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and knew that although she was walking in to a town, to a village that was going to slander her and accuse her of the worst thing possible, she knew that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was going to protect her at at any means possible, and she had faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet Musa alayhi salam had to face Pharaoh, the one who was causing torment and misery to an entire society, killing people left and right, women, children, spared no expense to gain as much power as he could, and he had to stand in front of him. And why are these stories mentioned? They're not for entertainment. It's to remind us that about many things. It's to remind us about many of religion is that they feel like why do bad things happen to good people? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying bad things happen to the best of people. And like that, if you have tawakkul, if you're always constantly turning back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and having faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through, patience and prayer and reading Quran and dhikr and getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will never leave your side, and nothing will be taken away from you without it being doubled in reward in the future, inshallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also telling us with these stories that these trials elevate our ranks. The rank of Ayub alayhi salam, after all the trials that hit him, was so much higher, even though he was already so high in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, was so much higher after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that he constantly went back to him. And although we will never face the same trials that hit the best people to walk on earth, we'll never face a fraction of what they experienced. It just won't happen. Inshallah, anyway. I mean, Rabbana ya'lam, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has tested them more than He will ever test us. We could relate to the Prophet Musa alayhi salam because, alhamdulillah, we don't have Fir'aun to, go head to head with, to save our people from. We could still relate to small moments in the story of Prophet Musa alayhi salam, and we could implement those into our day-to-day lives, even though we aren't, again, facing a pharaoh. Alhamdulillah, some countries do have a dictator, but nobody will ever be as bad as Pharaoh. For example, in the Quran, in the story of Musa alayhi salam, the beautiful dua before Musa talks to Pharaoh, he asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, رَبِّ اشْرَحْ لِي صَدْرِي وَيَسِّرْ لِي أَمْرِي وَاحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِّن لِّسَانِي يَفْقَهُوا قَوْلِي. And this dua really helps us talk eloquently and clear our chest and basically say what we want to say without having our words intertwined. Because sometimes speech just can't get what your heart wants to get across. Yes, exactly. It brings comfort knowing that our struggles are so tiny compared to the Prophet, the Prophets, alayhi salam, and knowing that they're gonna get the highest reward. And it just shows that with every sickness that you get and with every calamity, I really urge you to grant me a higher ranking because of what I'm going through right now. Yes, He tests those who love most. And how beautiful is that? We, a believer, there's a hadith about it, a believer will never be upset, we'll always be saying alhamdulillah, we'll always be content. Whether something good happens, we'll say alhamdulillah, and whether something bad happens, we'll say alhamdulillah. How beautiful is our deen? It's so mind-blowing to me. But what's it called? So we're still able to implement our society from Fir'aun anytime soon, inshallah. But we could still say the same words that Musa alayhi salam said to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and uttering the same words as a prophet from thousands of years ago. That's so beautiful, and it just shows how the message of the Quran transcends beyond all time, beyond all space. It's the most beautiful book because it never grows old. Whatever message you find from 1,400 years ago, you'll find still just as relevant today, and no other book will ever be able to compare to that. No other book could transcend time the same way that the Quran has. I know it's been 36 minutes, so I'm going to try to wrap this up so you guys don't get bored of me. But again, if you guys have any comments, okay, thank you. So just so we could finish this up, inshallah, so you guys don't get bored. Let's talk about ihsan. Does anyone know what ihsan is, or just want to drop the definition really quickly? Or I could say it. I'll give you 3 seconds. Okay, I'm going to say the definition of ihsan for time purposes. So ihsan is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as if you see Him. And if you cannot see Him, then know that indeed He sees you. And ihsan is something that every believer should be striving for. And while it seems easy, it's actually something very difficult to achieve if you're not taking the proper steps to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In order to have strong ihsan, we have to have a strong relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let me give you an analogy. Take Malcolm X, for example. If you ask anyone on the street what Malcolm X fought for, they'll tell you Malcolm X fought for XYZ. He fought for civil rights. He fought for African American rights. And they'll just know what Malcolm X fought for. But if you ask someone who read Malcolm X's autobiography, what they think of Malcolm X and his message, they will be 10 times more passionate, at least, about the purpose behind Malcolm X's statements and behind his message that he wanted to, show the world. And that's a human being. Reading a book about a human being that we can't see causes so many people to get touched all around the world. Look up to. Can you imagine the connection we would make by reading the book that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made specifically for us, specifically for the believers? Just think about it. There's so many people in this world, and how many Muslims are there? And we were lucky enough to be Muslims, to be chosen to have the ultimate book, to have the best guide, and we can't take advantage of that. We can't go through life saying, okay, I'll read the Quran next year. Oh, I'm just gonna read the Quran, like when I get older, when I have more time, when I have college, I have school, I have class, I'm a busy girl, Instagram is waiting, TikTok is waiting, all this stuff. How could we go through life knowing that we were specifically chosen out of millions and billions of people to receive the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to just look the other way and not try to understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to tell us and try to garner that connection between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ourselves? Literally, I used only one source in this whole entire talk that's been going on for too long. Only one source was from Tirmidhi, and it was an authentic hadith. Everything else is from the book that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. So if you didn't know something, literally just open up the Quran, and there's so many tafsirs. If you just can't read the Quran straight up like that, that's totally understandable. Yasir Qadhi, they all do beautiful tafsirs of all these different surahs, and we have the luxury, we have everything at our fingertips to just click on a video, put it on, just chillax and just listen to the meaning of the Quran. Everything is literally at our fingertips. We don't have to go out and get things like people 100 years ago. We're so blessed, and because we're so blessed, we are going to be tried based on what we have access to. So we can't ignore the materials that we have and then say I'm not going to be tried based on what I had, if that makes sense. So let's just scale back and talk about Ramadan before I close out. Ramadan is all about abstaining from temptations. Whether it's backbiting, treating family badly, being greedy, wasting time, the Quran covers it all. Whatever you feel like you're lacking, the Quran talks about. Whether it's spiritual, whether it's physical, whatever it is, whether it's your relationship with other people, the Quran is your solution. If you take a step towards learning the Quran, everything else in your life is going to fall into place. Your relationships will be stronger. Your friendships will be better. If you're having spousal issues, that you'll know how to treat each other based on what the Quran says about gender relations. If you feel like your temptations are getting you in any haram manner, look into the Quran and see why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says what the things that are haram, why he says they are haram. Just open a Quran and read it for yourself. See why. And if you want to learn further, there is so many different sources that we have right now. Why is this haram? Why is this haram? Don't go into the Muslim web. Go into people who have authentic hadith. Go into sources that are authentic. Go ask your local sheikh. Why? Because I feel that's that's one of the reasons why some people struggle. They're well, I don't understand why this thing is haram. I have self-control. I don't get it. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a reasoning towards every single thing mentioned in the Quran. And alcohol is causing so many deaths of people, and people getting into car accidents. Gender relations is just we all know what happens. It's astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. So many bad things could happen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving this Quran to protect us. He's telling us what to do to protect us, not for his gain. He doesn't need us to do any of this stuff. And if we truly understand the Quran, and our tarawih prayers will not just be long prayers that we do in Ramadan. It won't be something that we're just used to doing because it's customary. Our Tarawih prayers will be something spiritual. Our Tarawih in our house will be something that we understand and that we feel connected to. Our car rides with Quran in the background is going to be like the most peaceful, serene thing, knowing that Rabbina is talking to you, feeling that, like, we feel that connection, but like when we hear it in Arabic without like knowing what it's saying. Can you imagine if you actually understand every word that the Quran is saying? It's gonna transform the way you read Quran, the way you listen to Quran. You're in your salah, you're gonna understand what you're saying, which is so beautiful. Inshallah, inshallah, inshallah. You guys could incorporate the Quran to your daily lives. Everything I said is to me first before any of you. Because to finish the Quran, you could do 4 pages after every salah in just one language, or you could do 4 in Arabic, 4 in English, 4 in Arabic, 4 in whatever language you speak, whatever your first language is. And inshallah, you could finish the Quran by the end of Ramadan and have an understanding of the Quran. If anyone wants to say something before we go. Sorry, this was so long. And by the way, if you guys want to go see, I don't know, some of you weren't here in the beginning, but if you want to catch me in a different live stream, I'll be on live with CARE New Jersey, inshallah, on their Facebook page. We're going to be talking about Islam, justice, and the Quran talks about justice a lot. And I would definitely check the CARE New Jersey page. Which is why we switched the time from 8 to 7. So I'll be over there, inshallah, in like 15 minutes. Anything anyone wants to say before we go? No? I'm gonna give you like 4 seconds. 3, 2. Okay. Khalas. Thank you. Okay, wait. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ramadan, for letting me speak. Thank you guys for listening to me. I had a lot of fun, and thank you for like joining in the conversation. Inshallah, 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 we will all be reunited in Jannat al-Firdaus after Umr al-Tawil. Inshallah, inshallah. Inshallah, we'll all be able to read the Quran during Ramadan. If this is your first Ramadan finishing the Quran, inshallah you'll be able to finish the Quran. If you want to finish half the Quran, inshallah you'll be able to do that. Inshallah this Ramadan is going to be one that brings us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, more close than we have ever been before. Ya Rabb, please allow this Ramadan to be the best Ramadan for us, even if it's in our house. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, please allow us to get closer to our family during this time, and to allow us to hear the message that you've given to us in the Quran, and allow it to be an ease for our heart and a medicine for the diseases in our hearts, inshallah. Ameen ya Rabb. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wal asr inna al-insana lafi khusr illa allazina amanu wa amilu s-salihat wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabr. Assalamu alaikum, guys.